Greetings, friends. It's me, Wayman. Welcome to Religion Think. And I just wanted to come on and talk about the book Tobit. I've been working on Tobit for the Non-Theological Bible website, and I now have it uploaded. But I was doing some background information, and it's a very fascinating text. I think the user PC Kills has some videos on this topic, and I'll link to them in the details section, so be sure to check that out. Also, I'll be posting some articles in there that you should look at, and a few books on the text of Tobit. What's interesting about the text of Tobit is that it's a lesson on how Jews should live in the diaspora. Because right here, the story setting takes place during the Assyrian exile, where they exiled the north, and about 720 BCE. And there's some excellent themes in this. It's kind of up in the air at when the book was finally put together. Some scholars believe there's some elements in it, such as almsgiving, which might show up in the 2nd or 3rd century BCE. At any rate, it harkens back to some older texts that may have remained. Kind of like the stories of Daniel and Judith, which would also fit into this time period of the Greco-Hellenistic kind of writings, and also extra parts of Esther. What's fascinating about Tobit is here we have some themes that we find in non-religious literature coming out of Sophocles. Tobit buries bodies against the law of the Assyrian state. So that has references to Antigone, which is pretty interesting. And not to give too much away on the story, because I want you all to read it. He comes back. He's unclean. So here we find a Jew who's living in exile, who's trying to keep marriage rights. He wants his son Tobias to marry within the state. He believes in charity and almsgiving, and he believes in purity laws and rituals. So after he buries a body one night, he's unclean, so he stays outside of his house. Sleeping outside the house is also found when David is trying to kill Uriah. It brings Uriah back to the battlefield. Uriah, since he's a Nazirite holy warrior, the law code says he cannot go into his house while his men are on the field, so he sleeps outside. But here, Tobit is unclean, so he cannot go into his house, and he's following these rituals. And a bird drops droppings in his eye, and it goes white, and he goes blind. And which is also pretty fascinating, because here is an innocent man suffering, kind of like the Job idea. So he later he has a son. His name's Tobias. He sends Tobias to her relatives to get money that is being held by this relative, and he wants Tobias to bring it back. So here we start an idea like the hero's journey. Also, we meet up with Raphael, and if this is from the 8th century BCE, this is the first time an angel is named in biblical literature here. And Raphael is kind of like a messenger. This is kind of like Minerva showing up in the Odyssey to help Odysseus, which is pretty interesting. Tobias is cleaning himself at the Tigris River, and a fish almost attacks him, and Tobias, I believe, kills the fish, pulls out the heart and liver at the bidding of Raphael. And he's told that if he burns these in the presence of one who is possessed and one who is blind, they'll be healed. So we have the answer to the story already. But there is a cousin of Tobit who is plagued by a demon, and I'm not too sure of the demon's name right now, but she was married to 7 husbands, and before they could consummate the marriage in the marriage bed, the demon would kill the husband. So she looks kind of suspicious, and her maidservants are like, "You're killing off your husbands." So she's upset about the whole situation. So here, Tobias, on his hero's journey, is going to come back and save the day. And these kinds of plots are not all that outlandish compared to the stories, and I'm not really sure why Protestants kicked it out of the text, simply because it's very important. Here is a person who is living in exile and still trying to follow the religious Jewish belief system and not assimilate. And that's one of the most important messages of the book. And just like the other texts, how heroes overcome, heroes give speeches. Here we have Tobit at the end giving a speech to Tobias, and some texts have his son there. His sons are kind of like the Jacob speech and the last speech of Moses, which is pretty interesting. I'm not too sure. I'll have to look in it more why the heart and why the liver. Might have something to do with symbolism of reproductive, maybe. And so Tobias takes the liver and the heart, and he burns it as he's told to do. Sarah, incidentally, is Tobit's cousin who was plagued by this demon. The demon is removed, and so here we have our first exorcism here by incantation. There is an Assyrian prayer that I'll post that I want you to take a look at. It's an incantation against evil spirits, so that might have something to do with it. But here in the image, here we have the angel Raphael, Tobit and his wife, and Tobias using the heart and the liver of the fish to heal Tobit's blindness. And as you get into New Testament literature, these things crop up tremendously. In the New Testament literature, you can't even swing a cat by the tail without hitting a demon. And so here it is. This is one of the first texts where all that stuff starts to sprout up in the literature and become real. So take a look at that text, and take care, friends. And remember, if everybody's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking.